Well, I can talk a little bit about what caused it for me, knowing that I wanted to leave. I did this exercise which is called backcasting.
You told me about this, by the way. I love this exercise. I took it from him and I use it for my clients sometimes now. And I did it myself and I have this big vision now of, talking about that later.
Yeah.
Yes, tell us about it. What's the backtracking of your life kind of exercise?
Yeah, so it's called backcasting, and basically what you do is you create a set of questions around what your life is like that are important for you. So for some people this is, for me, I'm a really structured person. So for me the questions are like, where do I live? What kind of work do I do? What kind of relationship do I have? What kind of family do I have? What makes me happy in life? These kind of things. Other people, their question is, when I wake up in the morning, how do I feel? So whatever it is for you that helps you define your life, those are the kind of questions that you want to ask yourself. And then what you do is you imagine yourself 20 years into the future. And you really let go of where you are today, and particularly let go of the judgment of today.
Yep.
So the way this exercise works really well is that you imagine yourself 20 years into the future. Once you're there, and this takes a while, like visualizing, once you're there, you start asking yourself those questions that you wrote down. And the trick is in visualizing the answers and then writing them down without really interpreting what you're writing down. Because what happens when you look at what you write down is that you will look at it with the judgment of today, and that will affect your answers in the future rounds. Because you start to become afraid of what you're writing down. So it's
afraid
really,
of success. We talked about this before.
It's really about trying to get into a bit of a trance, into that visualization. Only look at your paper to write down the answers to your question, and then go right back into your visualization. So you do that for 20 years from now, then 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 2 years from now, 1 year from now, and tomorrow.
It's a beautiful exercise. I actually did it. He told me about this many months ago. I remember we were sitting in a garden, actually hanging out on a beanbag, and he told me about this exercise, and I was like, wow, this is fantastic. I have to try it for myself. And I found it made everything so much clearer. Like having an idea, having a vision of where you want to be in 20 years, and then just working it backwards gives you very clear steps. Like I basically know where I need to be in 1 year's time in order to get where I want to be in 20 years' time. And it makes you realize how much time you actually still have, and that you're good the way you are right now because you're just on a journey. You're just beginning that journey, and everything on that timeline has its own space in time. So it's a beautiful exercise.
And there's a couple points I want to make about this, because for a lot of people what you just said is really scary. And for people like you and me, we're really structured, so we're not scared.
The German and the Dutch.
Right. So we're not scared by the prospect
lines.
of making a path 20 years into the future, but most people are. So it's important to realize that when you're doing this, that what you create as a vision for 20 years from now, or even 2 years from now, doesn't need to happen. What you're creating isn't a path set in stone. What you're creating is a vision of what you would like to have happening. And the importance in this exercise is not so much the answers that you write down. The importance is what happens after you come back from that trance and you read your answers. And inevitably, in those answers, there's going to be things that you read and you say, whoa, so this means that I should
blah blah blah
and something, right?
So it comes straight right out of your soul, so to say, out of your
those
intuition.
insights, that's what you're after.
Yes.
So for me, I don't really remember what I wrote down, where I want to be in 10 years and 20 years. I know some of it, but most answers I've forgotten by now. But what I do remember was the 3 main insights that came from it. Which were, I want to live in a developing country for a long amount of time.
Yes.
I want to run my own social enterprise.
Okay.
And I want to live in a mega city.
In a mega city.
And here's the thing.
Okay.
This is 3.5 years ago.
All right.
One of them I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm living in Cambodia. I'm in Bali for a month and a half to write. But I'm going back. Cambodia is home at this moment. The social enterprise, I might. The mega city, I probably won't. And that's okay.
So tell us about your social enterprise.
So actually, I'll put one more thing out there. What happened for me when I did that exercise. So and this is why I stressed the importance of not looking at it through the lens of your today's judgment. Once I read my answers, so this is when I was still in a relationship, right? Once I read my answers, the big thing that slapped me in the face was me realizing, wow, this means that it's either this or my relationship.
So you have to make a choice.
It's not that I cannot do this with a life partner, but not with the one I'm with right now.
Which is a beautiful realization.
Yeah,
so that was the turning point.
Right. Yeah. That was the turning point.
Rethink.
Yeah.
And make a firm decision.
Right.
Yeah.
It took me a couple months, but it happened.
Everything
eventually.
takes.
Yeah. So social enterprise. So over the years, my Bible has become The Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid. I first read that when I just graduated from...
Sorry, what's the name?
The Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid.
The Fortune of at the bottom of the pyramid. Written by whom?
C.K. Prahalad.
Righto.
Okay.
So get that, people. Like, this is
Sounds
one thing I'm loving about all these interviews.
I have not heard about this book. What is it about?
So it's about how, in that story, mostly how big businesses are using the power of business to create social impact.
Okay.
So as opposed to the traditional model of NGOs and charities giving things away, these businesses are selling things that make people's life in developing countries significantly better.
Okay.
And those are things like solar panels. Those are things like a really low-cost computer where the entire village of farmers can check actual market rates so that they're not being ripped off by middlemen anymore. Yeah. Things like that. Smart solutions, really innovative things that make life better for the poorest.
Yes.
And this concept really intrigues me, and I believe that this is the way forward.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to live in a developing country, because that's the sector I want to work in.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What was the...